Hi there, everybody. This update is a little bit longer, but there's a lot of things to go over. The end of this week marks the halfway point of our course. Over the past 5 weeks, we've explored the history of higher education and the myriad of changes along the way. We examined how various historical and social forces have impacted education, including the role of technology, as well as some of the large policy decisions which have had profound effects on the way education is accessed and delivered. We focused some of that exploration on the historically black college and university, discussing their formation and future. And so this current week, we're exploring tribal colleges, community colleges, and for-profit institutions. As a preamble to all this, one of the first articles you read was an older one from Gibbons, who discussed the role that institutions will have to play in the future, one where there will be greater scrutiny of their mission in the growing knowledge society. As knowledge becomes even more ubiquitous, the institutions, must find their place among the many voices and find that specific niche that ultimately gives them purpose and value. Purpose and value, of course, are those concepts that Shapiro wrote about in his article, which you read the first week. With the complexities of the modern university and the connections with government, industry, and the community, what is the true purpose of higher education? What does it mean to have a liberal arts education? What about the place of research? What is the moral obligation of the institution? These are all very good questions that I'm sure are dissertation worthy. When we step back a bit to look at some of the historical dynamics which have shaped higher education institutions, many of you mentioned well-known policy and law cases such as the Civil Rights Act of 1964, as well as the GI Bill, two landmark cases which shaped the direction of higher education. These laws impacted the areas of opportunity and access, among others, and these emerged as predominant themes and therefore affected how certain schools were created. Continuing on with these themes of opportunity, access, and purpose, this past week we've been analyzing the role of 3 distinct types of institutions: tribal, community, and for-profit institutions. What struck me this week was the meta discussions on the purposes of these institutions. Each one of you has captured the essence of the history of these schools, and that's good. However, meta questions, at least in this context, are the ones that ask, so what does this mean? I found those discussions quite intriguing. For tribal colleges with such strong connections to land, culture, and context, what do you think is its role in shaping students' perceptions and views about the world? As many tribal institutions are located within or near tribal lands, how would an experience at a tribal college affect the community where it finds itself? One such example in a post this past week mentioned a personal experience with an alumnus of a tribal institution and the remarkable memory and affinity, not just for the school, but also for the surrounding community and also the care and responsibility for the local environment. Shifting to community colleges, the ability to offer higher education opportunities at a place where one can prepare for a baccalaureate granting institution is just one of the many things that make these institutions special. Some have called these institutions access institutions for that very reason. Furthermore, while many are still 2-year institutions, the word community has been dropped and programming has been added to also offer bachelor's degrees. Even with these shifts, community and technical colleges serve a wonderful niche in terms of workforce development and training. Since technical training has a strong hands-on element, these institutions are a vital resource for that hands-on experience to happen. all in a place that offers great economic value. We now come to the for-profit institutions, which I hope some of you got a chance to explore the section in the Cohen, Brower, and Kisker text that I mentioned last week. In the text, the authors describe the growth and ascendancy of these schools and categorize them into various categories: the 2-year schools, the 4-year schools, and the less than 2-year schools, which serve as a type of workforce development program. Probably the biggest challenge for the for-profit schools is not in the future per se, but how the future will be viewed in light of their past, given so much conversation lately on issues of accountability and transparency. I mentioned in a discussion post what some see as the fundamental issue that exists because of the nature of the school itself, the tension between profit and pedagogy. Whether this is a mutually exclusive dichotomy or a new framework where both can coexist remains to be seen. So 3 types of institutions serving 3 different purposes. Let me go back to the question that I shared before. What would it be like if you attended one of these schools? Specifically, what would your student experience be like? How would that institution shape your professional and personal life? What types of supports, both internally and externally, would be critical for your success if you attended one of these types of schools, given that each serve a distinct purpose and each carries a distinct, what I call educational culture? I want to get you started on thinking upon these things because as we shift to the second half of the class, we're going to focus on the question of who are the students that attend these types of schools, let alone higher education in general. What ways do institutions support and foster growth in students, ultimately for their academic success? What role does college and higher education play in the transformation of students and of society? Next week, we'll begin with the concept of institutional data and the elements that go into describing student demographics and the student experience. What role does data play in an institution, and how does it lead to decisions about its programs? You'll be doing an exercise in finding the relevant data and information points and discuss the area of institutional research, which serves as the central hub for these conversations. So as we wrap up this first half of the course, continue to post through the weekend, and please submit your reflections and comments on the course thus far. I've set up a dedicated place for this on a separate discussion thread called Your Feedback Requested. Responses are anonymous, and I do read and make adjustments, so any feedback you can give is much appreciated. One final thing that I mentioned is a professor hangout, where I'll set up a time, probably an hour, where I'll be on and available for questions and or concerns thus far. While I am always available via email or message, having a dedicated time where I'm at the ready and you can come and go as you please is another option for you. As such, this upcoming Thursday, the 18th, I'll be online between 9 and 10 a.m. Pacific time. I know that for some this might not work time-wise, but I plan on something during a weekend as well. Say a Sunday where you might be putting the finishing touches on a paper. Nonetheless, it's been a great first half so far, and I look forward to the upcoming second half of our course. Have a great weekend, and I will see you all online.